from analog.
Hi, Jim. You have a great signal up here. You're 5.9 plus.
Digital.
We are everywhere you want to be. This is the CQ Blind Hams Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to CQ Blind Hams Podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we've got a very interesting topic that I'd say most of the blind hams, a lot of the blind hams will be interested in because, unfortunately, we're locked into HOAs or apartments or just about every little place you could think of that won't allow an antenna, and I think it ought to be against the law, but
Amen.
you know, that's the law that's we're working on. The ARL is supposed to be working on that. But anyway, today we have with us, bringing back Russ KN4MLR, from way back. Russ was my co-host many, many moons ago for the first couple of roundtables. Welcome back, Russ.
Well, thanks for having me back. Yeah, I kind of bailed out on you there. I didn't feel like I was, really up to the task on that one, but, this one I might, have a few contributions. Trippy, I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you very, very much.
We got Trippy AC8S. Is that correct, Trippy?
That's right. Alpha Charlie 8 Sugar. I'm up in Port Huron, Michigan.
Port Huron, Michigan. 60
miles northeast of Detroit. If you got I-94 in your mind and you see it goes through east-west through Michigan, go into Detroit and then it swings northeast out of Detroit about 60 miles, and I'm right across the Lake Huron from Sarnia, Ontario. So it's really kind of cool because I got some VEs next door. So it's kind of neat. You're standing next to another country. So but it's good to be here.
We have a lot of VEs that join us on the Blind Hams Network. I don't know if you're familiar with the Blind Hams Network, but the bridge, the network bridge, DMR, D-Star, Fusion, Echolink, All-Star, all 9 ways that Patrick Purdue has figured out how to hook us up. A lot of the Canadians and UK and Australians and everybody around the world jumps on with us all the time. And maybe we can get you on Echolink or something someday and to join in some of our chats.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, we also have Rick with us. Rick is here. Rick is from Vandalia, Missouri. Give your call sign and where you're located at, Rick.
Alrighty. Call sign is November 3, Gulf, Mexico, Sierra, or as many folks called me back in Pennsylvania, where I located from originally. I've been here in Vandalia a year. N3 Giant Marshmallow Sundae. So, whatever. The phonetic that keeps on going. So there you go. I'm in the northeast corner of Missouri, not far from the Iowa border and about an hour and a half from St. Louis. So just been licensed for about since 1989, and my head isn't doing the math anymore today, so that's okay. But been off the air for many years, just getting back in this year. So thanks for having me on board. Appreciate it.
Well, it's good to have another ham on the air. Every person we can get on the air is a plus.
That's right. And the more blind hams we can get on the air is even better.
Amen. That's right.
So, Rick, I want to start with you, and I'll tell you, we'll go to Trippy last, and I'll tell you why, because I got a feeling Trippy and Russ is going to kick around that antenna, the snake antenna. And, Rick, you're here going to talk about the magnetic loop. So tell us a little bit about your antenna, your magnetic loop, and where it came from and how you've been doing with it.
All right. The magnetic loop antenna concept has been around a long time. But one of the major restrictions for that antenna is that it is normally considered a low power antenna, 5-10 watts, sometimes 25. There's the Chameleon, there's the Alex loop, and there's one made by MFJ, which I don't think I'd go there. But anyway, lots of different loops out there. But one of the claims to fame to this one is that you can run 100 watts PEP for a sideband, and I think it's 50 watts CW and 25 watts digital into this loop. And it's made by a company called Alpha Antenna, which they do all kinds of different antennas. The loop is not the only thing they do. The particular page that is related to the loop, Joel has in his show notes. So very good. And I've spent quite a few hours on the phone with the founder of that. First name Steve, and I'm drawing a blank on his call right now. But basically, what the antenna is, to describe it for the folks on blind hams, it is a 7-foot tall tripod. It's the base of the top of the tripod goes up to about 7 feet. There is a box with a knob on the top of it that is sitting on top of that tripod, and that inside that box is the variable capacitor. Just kind of rotate the dial, and that handles all of the tuning. The loops themselves are made of Lmr 400 coax. Really holds its shape well. Not a cheap loop. It depends on what you buy. You can buy the base loop, which is 40 through 10. And then there is an add-on for it for 80 meters, which essentially is just an extended, makes 3 loops instead of 2. And there is also a 2 meter, 220 and 440, add-on that you can get. And so I've actually got the whole kit. I bought the 80 meter one originally, 80 through 10, and then decided to add the 440 or the VHF, UHF onto there. I've done a lot of work with FT8 on it. I got myself on FT8. The loop can be put up in about 5 to 10 minutes tops, as far as that goes. The only real disadvantage to it is that it is narrow banded, but you do not need a SWR meter to get the basic tuning done. I'm using a TS590 SG with a ham pod, actually, and I've used it on a KX3 as well, to tune, you tune the antenna with the dial, you tune for maximum noise floor. You tune for peak noise, and then you just adjust it a little bit either side, and it is very, very small adjustment on that. Once you get the peak noise tuned, you can pass up the lowest SWR point pretty quickly. But I have worked and I've only had the antenna a couple of months because I wanted something I could put up quickly. I was going to put up an outdoor Hustler vertical, but those were out of stock, and so I really wanted to get back on the air. So that was the premises for buying the loop. And I like it. It does a really great job, and they're using them all over the world. Steve is very, very helpful. Matter of fact, when I bought the loop, one of the things I said to him was, gosh, it doesn't look like it'll work. And he said, that's what everybody says. But I have worked FT8, Dominican Republic, on 25 watts. I've also worked, it's probably one of my furthest contacts. I've worked, probably 10 or 15 states on 40 meter sideband, which, is just amazing on about 50 watts of power. It will go up to 100 watts, as I said, but the recommendation from Steve is don't push it past 80 or 90 just to increase the life of the capacitor. So really, really well-built loop. There is also a remote a box that you can put on top of the tuner and run. There's a 25-foot cable that you can get and a control box. I didn't do that, so I just kind of hop up, tune the loop, and sit back down at the rig. There are lots of folks that are using them. There are lots of folks that are visually impaired. He said he has a lot of visually impaired customers that have adopted loops. So
tell us where you've got it located. That's another surprise.
Oh yeah, it is located in my basement. I live in a single-story house, essentially renting the house. It's part of I'm a pastor at a church, and that's part of my package. Is the house. And so I didn't really want to, not that they would tell me I couldn't put up an outside antenna. In fact, they told me I could, but don't really have any ideas as to where I want to put anything yet, and wanted to be on the air, quickly. So got the loop, and, it's on the 7-foot tripod in my basement, actually not too far from a metal ductwork.
Russ knows about the ductwork, don't you, Russ? Now that antenna is very directional. It's a pretty directional antenna, isn't it? So have you found if you spin it around, because it's got metal off the sides? I
haven't noticed much of a difference. Really good. not much of a difference on transmit, but it's really, really good on noise rejection, noise level rejection. That's one of its great benefits, because I had on the KX3, before I got the 590 SG, somebody helped me on the model number from Elecraft. It's the KX1. Is it the AX1? AX1. Yeah, that thing is about ready to drive me nuts.
Amen, brother.
What's that?
Amen, brother.
Yes, it's about ready to drive me nuts, and I will not go off on why I hate AX1s, because we'll be here for another 2 hours, which I won't do. Bought the AX1, not happy with it. It does not, honestly, the short version of that story is I can't believe Elecraft put their name on it. It looks like a science project. It's terrible.
Is that a tuner?
What's that?
Is that the tuner?
No, that's their antenna that goes on the side of the radio.
Antenna. Oh, that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, it looks like something out of a high school science project. I think I could have built something better when I was in high school. But anyway, it was terrible. The noise level was, and I had it on a camera tripod, the AX1, and the noise level was probably an S9 here at my QTH in Vandalia. And I'm going to say that my S level with the loop is probably somewhere around an S4, S5.
Okay.
So
much better. Much better.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's with the same KX3 radio. So that, just in comparison. So, huge difference in the noise level, and you can hear things basically with the loop. I would summarize it by saying, if you can hear it, you can hit it. I mean, that's what I found. I mean, I've even gotten through pileups with it. It's when you look at it, it's just amazing. It doesn't look like it would work. It's one of those antennas, but it really does. It does an excellent job, and customer service is he's an excellent in terms of customer service.
Well, good. That sounds like a great antenna. Now the one I want to talk about, I'm still going to save you for last, Trippy.
That's fantastic. Have at it.
The antenna I'm going to talk about, I don't have, unfortunately. They're out of them, and I'm still debating where to buy it. It's called the TN07.com My Go-To Antenna, and they released it at, where was it? Huntsville Hamfest this year. And basically what it is two copper rods. They're real thick. They look like they're about an inch. They may not be an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And you take those two copper rods and you drive them in the ground. It comes with a driver, the little thing that taps them in the ground. And then you stretch a wire between the two. It comes with a wire. It's 25 feet. So you put these two rods 25 foot apart. Then you have a matching unit, which is a shunt, and you mount that box on top of one of them. And then from there, on top of the box, you put a 17-foot telescoping mast. And then it comes with a 50-foot piece of coax, and you run that to your radio, and it's supposedly tuner-free on 80 to 6 meters.
Wow.
Tuner-free, 80 to 6 meters.
Now that's something we got to keep tabs on. Let's see if that works. My goodness, Joel.
I've got some videos of 3 or 4 guys that has set it up and run the antenna. Mike K at MRD Radio did it. Eric down in Florida. What's Eric's call sign? YZ. Eric Ham Radio Concepts. He did it. Josh that runs Ham Nation now. KI6NAZ, he did a review of it. They all love it. I mean, they all love it. It's a portable antenna, or it can be permanent. And here's the funny part about it. It's a HOA antenna, because the guy, Bob, hates HOAs, and he's done several antennas on his website for HOAs, but he makes these little discs that you can set on top of the rods and mount a birdhouse on. So nobody will know what it is. He's got these little discs that ships with it that just fits right over that rod, and you can glue a birdhouse or a bird bath or whatever you want, fire pots. And
what's the power rating on that, Joel?
It's 100. No, is it 200 watts? Either 100. No, it's 100 watts. 100 watts.
That'll work.
And it looks like a great antenna. I don't know. It's got a shunt. It's not an un or a transformer. he calls it a shunt. And he's got it epoxy together so nobody will take it apart and reverse engineer his intellectual property. But he's been working on this, and it sounds like it works. People have got DXCC with it. They've got 100 countries on this antenna. He's got a lot of testimonials about it. So anyway, TN07.com. I'll have it in the show notes. I'll have a couple of the videos down at the bottom in the show notes of the podcast and on YouTube. So that's the antenna. The only drawback I can see is it costs $500.
Cheaper than the loop.
It is cheaper than the loop, but yet not as cheap as a snake, right, Trippy? Tell us about the snake antenna.
Yes, sir. Let me tell you, my friend, if I had 500, I'd ship it to you tonight. You could buy that. Anyway, this happened in 2013. In 1998, I was living here at Northport, where I live, and I was using an antenna, and people saw it. And my apartment's over the parking lot, folks. I kid you not, it's over the parking lot, so everybody can see coming in and going out. And the antenna I was running, people could see it, and the manager said, "You got to take that down." So I took it down, and for 15 long years, I was a ham and name only, and I went into a deep depression over that. Well, thank God for Paul, KG8OU, Paul Mercurial here in Port Huron, said, "Trippy, I got an antenna. They're not going to complain about it. I'm all ears." So he said, "You take a piece of coax." Of course, the one end is the PL259 connector. And so you take a piece of coax, and the other end, you just let it hang over your balcony. Just let it hang over. And he said, "You're going to enjoy the outcome." I'll give it a shot. So I did. I had a Kenwood 120. I bought a used one because I had no radio at the time because I sold everything to get out, and I didn't know if I'd ever come back and be able to. So I bought it and turned it on. Got on August of 2013. In the August 13th, the second weekend of August, the Worked All Europe CW contest. And I had the 120. I was on 20 meters, and I worked 25 contacts in like 20 countries on 20 CW. Needless to say, I was on top of the world. Wow. And so I've been telling people about the snake for ever since. Now I've got a KX3 as well, and love the radio. It's my favorite radio. It's the best radio I've ever had, and love the tuner, especially because of the tuner. That tuner, I probably could tune a piece of rope if I wanted to or something, but it's incredible. And,
it is.
Yeah. And so Rick knows what's going on. Yeah, it's definitely. And so I love this. And if the weather's bad, because I don't have to keep it outside if I don't want to. And so I brought it back in one day. It was in July of 2015, and they had the IARU HF championship contest on the second weekend. And I said, I'm going to see if I can use it in the apartment. I had a 12-foot 9-incher. So it wasn't even matched for 20. I didn't cut it for 20. I should have. But I wasn't thinking about it. So I just cut it for what it was. I said, let's see if it works. 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, I hear this, WX0T, I think it was. Anyway, a WX0 was calling, and I'm running 15 watts into this piece of RG213 coax, and he got me on the first call. And I worked 10 contacts that day. And, I was over the moon. It was like, this is incredible what this thing can do. So I said, I'm going to write an article about it. And so I wrote the article, and, I put it all over the place and sent it to different hams. And, my burden, fellas, is to get everybody on the air who wants to be on the air. And that's my burden. That's my thing. If we can get people on the air who are restricted, to get them on the air and get them on HF and enjoying it, it's so wonderful to do. So I was glad I was able to share the article with Russ, and he can tell you what he did, but, it's a heck of an antenna. I'm also working on another antenna, but I'll share that in a little bit if you want to hear about it. So anyway, that's me.
Yeah. Well, we got Russ. Tell us how you did. Now you use, RG213 Trippy. Russ had an extra piece of RG8X. And go ahead, Russ, and tell us about yours.
Okay. I was going to let you go ahead, but no, yeah, I just had some spare RG8X, very inexpensive, cable that I got from Amazon. It was just laying around. But the thing that got me on it was that it sounded very easy to build, and I had the coax and a connector. So I'll give it a shot because I had an ulterior motive for not just saying, yeah, it sounds like a good one to build. We have some rental property in Florida, and it's in an absurd HOA. I mean, if you stick your nose out the door, somebody complains about it. So
yes.
I inherited in a way Kenwood 820, and I had no antenna for it. And anyway, I thought, well, this might be a solution next time we go down there, which is in a couple of weeks, to hook it up and see what this radio does. So I built the 18-foot 6-inch antenna, and initially I tried to use the connector that was on one end of this coax, but when I tried to strip away the braid, for some reason I just could not find that one loose strand that was shorting it out. So I clipped it off and stripped off more than enough of the braid and the jacket so that there wouldn't be any problem. And long story short, it all worked. I mean, as far as not shorting out, but yeah, I mean, it's 18 foot 6 inches is in my basement. I laid it down on the floor just to see what the SWR would be like. And without a tuner on 20 meters, it was 5-1. And I thought, wow, this is not bad. So using I have an MFJ automatic tuner. I mean, it just snapped to 1-to-1 instantly.
Yes.
And so, or close to it. And so when I start tuning around, I dropped all the way down to 80 meters just to see if it would tune up. Boing, it tuned it up. So I went to, it's at 375.3, I think is the FT8, the watering hole frequency. And boy, it was just coming in like gangbusters. This was on the floor of my basement. So, tuned up and brought up WSJTX, Q-Log, and I almost fell out of my chair when this guy is in West Virginia, and I was running about 50 watts, which is a little more than I normally run on FT8, but he comes back with a -6 report, which is not bad.
That's excellent.
Even on an outside antenna, I couldn't hardly believe it. And then when Q-Log comes back with a Roger 73, if it had been 30 minutes earlier, Joe, I would have called you on the phone. But I thought, Joe's he's probably hit the sack by now. So, so I fired off an email tonight. But at any rate, another night on phone, 80 meters was just, was unbelievable. So I made a couple of more contacts on 80. I really haven't tried it on the other bands because, I thought I'd quit while on my head, but I've got it rolled up right now and, cause I'm going to, put it in my suitcase and take it to Florida. But yeah, I mean, I was almost sheepish, or I sheepishly emailed Joel and I put it on the subject line, believe it or not, because I couldn't, I thought, I don't know why this is working. No one's going to believe this. And so I will, put a little caveat in there to say, well, if you don't believe it, I certainly understand. But, as I said, I'd got a next night or two, I got a New York contact and a Massachusetts contact. And I thought, well, three's charm. This is time to quit. Time to quit.
I asked Google how far it was from Louisville. I said Boston because I wasn't sure what town. It's like 900 something miles. I said, yeah, that antenna works.
Yeah.
Now here's the other thing, guys, that is important. And that antenna will work on sideband and it'll work on CW, as I mentioned. On 20 CW it worked. And 18.6, that length is great, as Russ found out. It's a great length. And you'll I hung it over my balcony, that version of it. And I worked a contest on 20 sideband, kilowatt alley, with my 100 watts, and I'm working guys on 20 meter sideband with a snake. So It will do it for you. It will do it.
Well, Tripp, what is the maximum wattage you can throw at it? I mean, I can't go over 100 anyway, but
nope.
Just out of curiosity.
You can put 1500 in it.
1500, okay.
Yeah, because it's regular coax, so.
Yeah,
it's regular coax.
Another question is, on the spacing between where the braid stops and the PL259 starts, is that 1/8 inch, is it Is that a magic number, or is it just what you use, or can it be varied? Or
I can't tell you that because I didn't do it that way. The way I did it was so intermittent, I wouldn't recommend it the way I did it. But, and here's the wonderful, as it says in the article, but I'll mention it here too. I contacted a ham I know in Arizona, Jim N6DHZ. He owns the DX store. That's his business. It's called the DX. I said, Jim, I'm blind ham, and I've got a thing called a snake. He said, what's that? And I told him what it was. He said, tell me how you make it, or send me the article. So I sent him the article. He calls me back and says, Trippy, you got a winner. I can make snakes. I can make them. So I ordered a few of them. I've got sitting behind me, and I haven't put it in line yet. I have a 138 footer behind me, RG213, and it's made. Jim made it, and he'll make them for you. And I'm glad, because I'm not an expert at stripping coax and stuff like that. That's not my strong suit. And when Jim told me, Trippy, I can make these for, just have him call me. And I said, you got a deal. So, that's what I did. And I ordered them from him. I've ordered an 84 footer. It worked great. I ordered a 27 footer. I ordered there's so many different footers that I've had. So yeah, I don't know about the 1/8 inch. I think Paul said, if I remember in the article, I think it's an 1/8 of an inch. But yeah, that's what I do. I just send people to him if they want to get one, because he makes it perfectly. As a matter of fact, not only does he make it great, he makes it weatherproof. So you can put it outside, and it's weatherproof. And just like any piece of coax. So yeah, it's fabulous that way. So
did you say it works great vertically? Have you tried it vertically?
No.
Or is that in the article?
No, I have not tried it vertically, but that's not a bad idea if you got room. There was one guy who had a tower, and I told him, why don't you try to put it on the side, go up the side of the tower, as high up, to the top, and then, tie wrap it or tape it or whatever, maybe both, to your tower, and, see what it does for you up, 80 feet. So, why not? Absolutely. Yeah. It's worth a shot.
Heck yeah. So I guess he puts heat shrink around the little gap by the braid where it connects to the PL259.
Right. I think. And because it's absolutely done perfect. I mean, how he does it, you can't even tell that he cut it. Okay. It looks just like a brand new piece of coax. And so yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah. I put heat shrink across it.
You did, Russ. Okay.
To give it some strength.
Yeah. I mean, I used a crimp-on connector, and really the crimping sleeve doesn't really serve any purpose because there's nothing to crimp to. So there's no there's no braid. So I used a piece of heat shrink across it, and that does give it a little bit of extra strength. That's the only weak part of the whole antenna is right there where that braid ends, and the only thing that's really holding it in there is where you solder the center connector to center connector or pin to the feet, or the center connector. Yeah. But let's see, I had another question.
Well, while you're thinking about it, Trippy will give me the information for that gentleman's contact, and
I'll be glad to.
We'll put that in the show notes, and I'll actually put it on blindhams.com. And I keep forgetting to say that at the beginning when we open the show. I need to tell everybody to go to blindhams.com because we have so much information on that website. We have links. There's one page called Ham Radio Links. There's the front page will tell you how to connect to the Blind Hams network, and there's links to the podcast and the YouTube that we're going to be recording this for right now. So
yeah, and the other thing, Joel, maybe folks, even if they're not interested in the email, the file library on Blind Hams, the group, is just incredible.
Yeah, there's a file section there where a lot of people
That's the other thing that's. Yeah.
But the ARR letter goes up there every month if anybody wants to read that.
Absolutely. While I'm here, I'll give you the number for the DX store where you can order. And folks, I don't get paid for any of this. And people have asked me, are you getting any kickbacks? I said, no, I'm not. Here's my payoff, getting people on the air. You want to pay me back? Get on the air.
There you go.
866-899-3947. That's 866-899-3947. And tell Jim that you heard about the snake and you want to order one. And he'll cut it any length for you you want, any length. And you're going to be happy with it.
You want that blind snake. That's the one.
That's right.
Blind snake.
There you go.
Trippy, I guess Rick and me both kind of kicked this around. We thought about running up in that PVC and we was going to melt the end of it and make a shepherd's hook out of it, put red tape around the bottom and tell everybody it's just a cane.
There you go. Now, if you really want to get out well, and I haven't tried this yet, but I've heard it's with coax. If you attach the coax to a piece of aluminum pipe, not PVC, because PVC is terrible for getting out. I tried a piece of coax inside a PVC pipe on my local repeater. They couldn't hear me. It was 2 miles away, and I could hardly hear the repeater. But if you put a piece of your coax, if you want to put a snake alongside a metal pipe, an aluminum pipe, as long as you want it, just tape it along to it or tie wrap it. They say it's phenomenal. That your signal's even better. So if any of you try that, let me know what you think. I'll be curious about
Laying it on the ground?
Yes. Lay it on the ground or stand it up.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
I've got a 33-foot push-up pole.
There you go.
I think that'll be a good idea. I want to run that 80-something footer, so I'll run it along the ground and run it over to that pole and go up with it.
Oh man, I can't wait to see what happens for you.
Yeah.
Well, Trip, when you run it out the back of your apartment, do you let the coax just hang down over the rail? So there is a vertical component to what you're set up.
Well,
with.
yeah, you're right. That's right, because it is hanging straight down. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Top loaded vertical.
Yeah, and I hang it down as low as the floor of the balcony, so nobody can see it because it's on the floor of the balcony. It's touching, the balcony floor. When it hangs over the balcony, it touches my second floor, the balcony floor. And,
okay.
Oh yeah, incredible stuff.
I remember Russ's next question. Let's see, Russ. Is this it, Russ? Can you add a short length of coax to it to get it out of the house or out of the building, and then connect it with a barrel connector? We both had that question.
Yeah, you could try it. I haven't done it, okay? I haven't done it, but you could try that. Why not? Absolutely. The reason I haven't done that is because before I order, I measure how many feet I want, and I've gone through, this is my second Braille yardstick from APH now. When I do antennas, snakes or any of them, I use a Braille yardstick that they have. I love that thing. And so I measure before I order, to tell them exactly how many feet I need, feet and inches, if it's in between footages. But yeah, you could try the connectors and connect another piece and see what happens for you. I'd be curious.
Is that the question you were thinking about, Russ?
No, really, it wasn't.
That's good. That means we got another one.
Okay. Yes, that was the question. But I do have another one. Is there any rhyme or reason between the length of the snake and which band it's cut for? Because this 18.6 seems to work across pretty much everything.
That's fabulous.
And you said 12 point, what?
I had 12.9.
12.9, that was cut for 20 meters. And I wonder how'd you come up with 12 feet 9 inches for 20 meters?
Well, as we know, quarter wave is longer than 12.9, but it's all the room I had at the time. So I said, well, I'll just cut it as long as I can, when I was still making them. And I came up with 12 feet 9 inches, and, that was the one I used indoors, and just to hang it over the curtain rod on my storm door. And, so that's why I did 12 feet 9. I was amazed I didn't think it would work on 20 at all. I didn't, because it wasn't even a quarter wave. And, oh my gosh, I was making contacts left and right. So on 20. So it was, it's not supposed to work that length, but it did.
None of it's supposed to work.
None of it. That's right. Well, along the same line, in your article, you had various lengths that you said these work, and then there were a number of them they were usually in the 70-foot range that
That's
say
correct.
these don't work.
That
When
is
you
correct.
say they don't work, do they just not perform at all, or just nowhere near as good as the other?
The SWR on them was extremely high on all the ones I said that didn't work.
Uh-huh.
Like, 20 to 1 or something like this, way up there.
Okay. All right.
So that's why I discouraged people from cutting those lengths. But that's, and the other thing is, Bill K1GFE, who's mentioned also in the article, mentions the 138 footer. And he, is the original guy, who invented the snake. He was the guy that came up with it, back in 2010. And, he's a silent key now, unfortunately, but, thankfully he wrote everything down on what he did and gave it to Paul. I found it on a Google search, and so some of the stuff in the article is from Paul. But Bill says 138 feet. He says it works on all bands, 160 through 6, fantastic SWR, and he works guys on 80 sideband and 160 sideband. 160 sideband. I'm going, holy cow, how did you do that? And 40, 20, 15, 10, 6, whatever. And even on 2 meters, if you're working 2 sideband, you can use a snake on 2 meter sideband. Be pretty happy with that because it's horizontal, as you're laying it horizontal, but you've got, of course, vertical on 2 meters as well. You really got both, kinds of stations, but it'll work well on 2 sideband as well. So.
Wow. Now, the guy working 160, what'd you say, 138 feet? That's the measurement. That's the measurement that he used, and he worked from all across Europe. He worked Europe. He lived in, that's Paul, GM6MEN, who's in the article. He is in Scotland. He worked all over Europe, and he worked all over the United States, on 160 and 80. Is that antenna on the ground, or has he got it up in the air at all?
No, he puts it out the window, and when he wants to use it, he puts it out the window, lays it on the ground, as far as he can string it. And just puts it on the ground and away he goes.
Holy smokes. Yeah. I've only been a ham 6 years, so I know I've not heard everything. And these guys that are,
I'm still learning too, fellas.
This guy's been around 30 and 40 years, and they are freaked out about it.
Yeah.
So,
well, me too. I've been around that long too. My favorite topic is the antennas, and we could talk all night about it because
that's the heart of the system.
If you got no antenna, it doesn't matter what you got for radio.
Yeah, you can have a 5,000 watt calling station. If you ain't got a good antenna, it ain't going nowhere.
That's right. So,
wow, that is amazing. And
Rick,
you got any more questions?
No, but I got to get some coax and a connector. I do know that.
Rick, if I was in Vandalia, I'd come over tomorrow and we'd have an antenna party, putting up a snake.
Putting them down. That's you put them down.
Put them down. Yeah, put them down, put it up, whatever you want to call it.
Wow, that's amazing.
He literally, in the article, guys, when he goes on vacation, he rolls it up just like Russ. He rolls his snake up, and when he stops at a rest area or whatever, honey, I'm going to go do some hamming. So he throws it out of the car, out the window, and strings it and lets it go and makes contacts.
Wow. Oh, here's my question. I remember it now. I told myself this morning I was going to write them down, but I didn't. I'm procrastinating. Okay. What do you think about using Lmr 400? And just, I
love it even, I love it even better than RG 213. It's even lower line loss than 213, which is what I use. But here's the problem with Lmr. Lmr has a coax connector problem. If you bend it, the Lmr doesn't like to bend. It's not like RG8 or RG 213. It's not as flexible. And there's been guys that have used it that have had problems with Lmr 400 because the connector broke, or it bent, it broke it. The connector separated. So that's why I tell people if you want the lowest line loss possible,
213
is 213. And I didn't know that till a ham told me, who I respected. And I said, okay, you got it. Yeah. I'll spend them. I'll get 213, but 8X is not going to hurt you. As Russ has demonstrated, 8X is not going to hurt you.
What about ladder line? Have you ever thought about making it out of ladder line? And just tie the two ends together and connect one of them to your center conductor and leave the other one loose?
if you want to try it, go for it. That would be wonderful to hear. If somebody wants to try that, that would be phenomenal. See what happens. I won't say it won't work.
Somebody said, was it Angelo, I think, mentioned, what about using lamp cord?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I mean, you got two wires, but they're really close together, but then you got your coaxes real close together.
Right.
Hey,
right, exactly.
This is just give us the freedom of trying it. And that's what this thing's all about.
Absolutely.
This experimental hobby.
Yes, it is.
We've been kicking around the Blind Hams Network. Trippy, do you have a Amazon device, an Echo or a Google?
I certainly do. I got an Echo Dot and I got an Echo Flex sitting right in front of me.
You can listen to the Blind Hams Network on your Echo.
Well,
Just say, listen to the Blind Hams Network, and you can hear us talking every morning on the radio. We're on our HTs, and I'm on my 590. I mean, my 71 TMV71A. We use All-Star. We got the GD77 and 77S's that has the open source firmware that make the radio talk. If you ever never heard one talk, I'll let you listen real quick to a GD77.
Channel SHARI.
That's on the Shari.
Over.
Oh, that's
Wow. Buddy. I hope you have a real good
that's
weekend.
a repeater in Knoxville, Tennessee that I've got connected through my Shari node.
Oh my gosh.
LOCAMOS.
There's a blind ham in
That's gorgeous.
Australia named Joe Steven. He's been on our podcast. He's a software developer for JAWS.
Oh my
And now
gosh.
he's developing this firmware. There was another sighted Australian named Roger Clark in Australia. He started the project, and then he added voice prompts from request by Ian Spencer over in Germany. And so he started doing some things that, he took it off the open source, and then Joe picked it up and started running with it. And he calls it the accessible GD77
Now,
project.
I wonder if that Joe is the same Joe that there was a blind ham who made a loop. He made his own loop.
Yeah.
And
I think he runs
same
a
guy.
loop. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And
It's in
I heard about
Tasmania.
that. Yeah, he made his own. I said, holy
Yeah.
cow. That's beyond my pay grade.
Joe is an interesting guy. He really is. He's the one that does this software, and I'll send you a link. I mean, I don't know if you want to start dealing with HTs and stuff, but it's a 2 meter, 70 centimeter DMR analog radio. It's a great radio. It's about $90, $95. Put the open source firmware on it. Talk to your local repeaters on it. And if you want to get an all-star node or a DMR hotspot, you can talk to us every morning.
Well, here's the other thing, guys. Going back to the snake here too. Russ, was it you that was talking to me about a beverage antenna? Somebody was talking to me about they want to go. They got
that was me.
Was it you?
I thought about it. Doing a beverage antenna.
Well, the snake is a beverage. You can use it as a beverage. I can't imagine a 500 foot. I think that would be phenomenal. Think about how phenomenal it'd be. A signal wise, transmit signal. 500 foot. How many 100 feet would you go? How do you have available?
I got 3 acres, and I got trees over 100 foot tall, 120 foot tall.
Think about that for a while. So put a snake that size, that length, I mean, holy moly.
I got about 300 foot of coax laying right over here in a box beside me.
There you go.
I just took down 3 antennas over when I moved. I took down a 135 foot Wyndham off center fed with 100 foot of coax on it. And I took down my 40 to 10 off center fed Wyndham, and I had 130 foot of coax to it.
Wow.
And then I had 100 foot coax go to my vertical triple tri-band vertical, 2 meter, 6 meter, 70 centimeter. And so I've got all that coax laying right here beside me. I want to make me at least one of those and lay it out here on the side of my house and just test it.
I can't wait to see what happens. You got to tell us or you got to tell me how it works. Goodness. Wow.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Yeah. So we started doing the power pole. Russ got us started power pole in the world. Do you use Anderson power poles by any?
You know what, guys? I have to tell you, I've never even seen one. Never even got my hands on a power pole.
Neither did I, but they're easy to do. You don't have to.
Yep.
They're awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, they are.
They're
Russ
not
did one.
poles.
Poles.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
poles.
Now,
they're
somebody told me
little
that,
plastic connectors.
yeah,
Legos.
somebody told me that it's great for the blind because you can't mess up the positive and negative.
Nope.
Once you got them oriented correctly, when you connect
Oh
them,
my God.
they will only plug in one way.
Oh,
So
that's
you can't plug 'em in wrong.
phenomenal. Oh, that's phenomenal.
And it will go black and red. I mean, the color doesn't matter unless a sighted person looks at your connector and then they're like, whoa, wait a minute. But
You got two reds or you got two black. No.
yeah, as long as you put the red on the right side, as in the physical right side of the connector,
Gotcha.
and the black on the left, as far as the wire goes,
Wow.
you're good. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. I made my first connection last week. We bought the crimping tools that we found. You can buy all the parts on Amazon or
My goodness.
what's that company, Russ? PowerWorks.
PowerWorks,
Russ,
yeah.
Yeah. And you can buy
yeah.
distro blocks. You can run like your power supply into a distro block, and then plug your radios, PW1s, whatever you need to plug in 12 volt, plug it into that power strip, and you're good to go. Johnny NE5L is going to make us a podcast on how a blind person can make these connectors, and we're going to put it we'll be putting it on the podcast probably in the next couple of weeks.
Well, now that I'm
Trippy.
caught up, I can get on the YouTube, the normal page, because I'm caught up. So now I won't have to say, I can't go back that far because I'm caught up. So I'll be able to get on the normal page now.
There you go. I also sent you a link to the podcast. That's over on anchor.fm.
Yes.
You can get it there, the audio version.
Right.
Well, tell us about the antenna you sent me a video on today. I got it in the mail today. Tell us about that antenna and what that's going to be about, the next podcast.
Well, the thing is, for years, ever since ham radio began, people had to solder antenna legs of dipoles and inverted V's to insulators and to balance. They had to solder it so it wouldn't come off. Well, yours truly, one day, thank God, I was able to. He gave me a piece of wisdom, and I said, I'm going to try this out and see if it works. So I ordered, and it's the only balun in the industry. There's none of the others work like this. It's the MFJ 918 balun. It has an eye hook on the top where you put your piece of rope, and then it has on the right side for the one leg is an eye hook, and on the left side is an eye hook. And you just put the piece of copper wire. I use 12 gauge single strand bare copper. That's when I do copper wire antennas. And I just put it through the hole. And then I go a little bit further and then I fold it over. I fold the wire back on itself. So it touches itself and it won't short it out. You'd think it would, but it'll touch itself and it's impossible to disconnect it. You won't disconnect it unless you decide, I'm done with this, I want to pull the wire back out, and then you have to unfold the little folded wire there, the piece of the wire, and you pull it back out through the hole, you disconnect it that way. I've had 70 mile an hour winds here, and I've had none of my dipole inverted V's come down, nothing. And then the porcelain insulator, which is what I use, I like it best because it's not affected by the sun's rays like the plastic and the others. And so I use that, the egg insulators, and I put that piece of copper wire through the bottom hole and I push it up through the top hole just till it hits my thumb, and then I push it another about an inch and a half, and I take that little piece of wire and I fold it back on itself as well. And no soldering necessary if you're using the copper wire. You can't do that with insulated wire. I've never been able to do that with insulated because it's not copper. It doesn't, it's not going to stay connected like that. But if you're using copper wire, you don't have to solder a thing anymore with legs of antennas or on the ends to insulate.
So you get that, that's what's called ground wire that electricians use. Is that what you're talking about? It's bare copper wire. You buy it at Lowe's or something?
Well, yeah, you can buy it at Home Depot. That's where I get mine. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it bends so nice. It's not springy. It doesn't spring back on itself. And oh my gosh, I'll just say they know my name over there now. Here he is, that blind guy again. We got to get him some more wire. They have it in 1250.
Oh, I bet they do.
So, But I'm messing around with one right now. I shortened it last night with the help of a friend. I want to find something that's going to do something for me on 160 and 80. And yes, I got the snake over here, but I'm trying to see what I can do with the dipole inverted V. I call it a dipole inverted V, I should say, because you stretch the dipole, like you stretch a normal dipole. You stretch it as far as you can, then you drop it down. But you don't have to do that. I run it as an inverted V as well. Just, drop it down the ends. So that's the thing with solderless balance and end connectors or insulators. It's, I enjoyed putting that video together. It was really great. So I think it's going to help a lot of folk.
I appreciate you sharing it with us. We're definitely going to get it. Well, as soon as I get this done, Angelo gets done with this while he's working on it tomorrow, I'll work on that. And that might go up before this does. It just depends on the timing. But wow, we have a little null in content. I've been down here for about 2 months in South Carolina and kind of hadn't did anything as far as ham radio because I'm trying to buy a house. And now we've got it seems to come in droves. We did this once before. We went for about 2 months and then we had 3 or 4 in a row. So that's okay. It keeps us going and gives everybody something to do, watching and listening to these videos and these podcasts. So I want to let you know we appreciate you being on the show, and we'll have to have you back when we get everybody gets their snakes working. We'll get back on here and compare notes.
We could have a snake party.
Snake party.
Exactly.
Russ, you got anything else for Trippy while we got him on the line?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could loop a snake through a loop, but
why not?
Take a
I
hula hoop,
wanted to
run
leave
it
a little
through.
pause there because in case Angela wanted to cut this out.
Yeah.
But just in a ballpark number, on DX Store, what do they charge for a...
Well, for the 138, the 18.6, it's probably going to run you, I'm guessing here now, because it's been a long time. I'd say $30 maybe.
Okay. Now, just in case people don't want to go the route of building one themselves.
Right.
Yeah, go that way.
The 138 footer, I paid, I think it was $240.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
So
that's 160 though. You're going to get on 160
Oh
now.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a big boy band right there.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay. No, I appreciate you being here, and very interesting. I think for HOA people, this is another option for them. I think all the antennas that were mentioned were are options, and I guess it just depends on where you are and
You bet.
what you have available. But yeah, that's it is. I'm still scratching my head on why does this thing work?
Yeah.
But
There's a guy in Florida, Tom KF4YEY. He was going to join us tonight, but he had something he had to do. So we're going to definitely do an HOA Antenna 2.0. So we're going to have him on, and he's been using the Wolf River coil vertical.
Oh yes.
And,
yes, sir.
So there's a couple of coil, antennas that would work for an HOA. You set them up on a tripod or take them out in a park or whatever you want to do. And, in-fed halfway. Russ loves his in-fed halfway.
He should. They're wonderful. And there's a secret to end-feds too. If you don't have all kinds of room, let's say you want to put one up 100 and some feet, but you don't have that kind of room. If you take the wire that you're using for the antenna wire and you just coil it up at the halfway, or I should say 6 feet away from the un. You just make a coil, not add a coil to it, but use what you got the wire and have a coil, and then holding it right there. You're going to need another person to do this to help you. Holding the coil right there, stretch the rest of the leg of the end fed out as far as you can and connect it to an insulator at the end. And it'll be remarkable what you'll do with an end fed that way if your link's challenged. And who isn't?
So how much you think you can take off of? Say a 80 meter end fed's going to be around 130 feet. So how much of that 130 feet do you think would work by coiling it up? 20, 30, 40 feet?
Oh, possibly. Yeah. It might even be less than that. Who knows? I'm making an article right now and I haven't sent it to you because I'm still working on it. As I told you, I'm messing around with the dipole inverted V, thing. So I'm messing around with coiling. Coiling was invented by Barry, KU3X, out of Pennsylvania. And he's the guy that told me about coiling. And he made a dipole, and he had hardly any footage. And he did the coil, except on a dipole or inverted V, you put the coil halfway between the balun and the end of the leg, of each leg, I mean.
Each leg, yeah.
And oh my gosh, I have one here right now. I have one here right now. A friend of mine, he's on the 8th floor. I'm on the 2nd floor. He's on the 8th floor with a 34-foot balcony. That's all he's got, 34 feet. So you're not going to run 130 foot. But I said, let's try putting 31 foot, 8 inch, length, inverted V up for you. We made a contact 370 miles away on 80 meter sideband. So there's a way to do it. You just got to find out how to do it. But, it definitely works. You can do that with ununs. You can do that with, NFEDs, or you can do that with inverted Vs.
Inverted V. Wow. That's probably one of Rick's friends. Rick, you're from Pennsylvania originally, aren't you?
Yeah, originally. Yeah, don't know the call, but, yeah, I've got one of those ununs. You were talking about that, Trippy. I've never used it. Picked it up on eBay. I can't remember who made it, but it is in a plastic case. It's got 4 little rubber feet on the bottom of it.
Wow.
And what it is, it's got 2 screws, 2 like bolts with wing nuts on them with washers. Mm-hmm. One's got an eye hook, so you can attach the center to one and the ground and another length of wire to the other one. And it's got an SO239. You just add those 2 wires on there. It was only like $5 or $9 on eBay.
My gosh, Rick. And it's 2 eye hooks. There's no binding posts or no lug nuts. You just have 2 eye hooks?
There's lug nuts on them. They're not lug nuts, but they're like a bolt with a wing nut on the end with washers.
Gotcha. Okay. I've been looking for an un with eye hooks, and I've never been able to find one, guys. My hands don't work well with lug nuts or binding posts. I have never in my life. My hands don't have good. You would think that they do with all the work I do with that, but my hands don't have good dexterity with finger and thumb. And but with the eye hook, it's easy. You just push the wire through and then fold it back on it.
Yeah, these have the little like where you do the wing nut. But I mean, I'm trying to figure out where I could put something like that to, it's actually, the box could sit, cause it's got 4 little rubber feet on the bottom of it.
I got you.
Is that these are for NFEDs. Is that a 4-to-1 or 9-to-1?
9-to-1.
9-to-1.
It's a 9-to-1. So that's for a random wire, isn't it, Trippy? Mm-hmm. 9-to-1 they use for,
they have 9-to-1s. They have 49-to-1s. 49-to-1s are for your half waves.
NFED half waves.
Half waves. Yep. And then now they even have 56-to-1s and they have 64-to-1.
Yeah. I was wondering about the 64. I saw those. I was like, what do you use that for?
Exactly.
Anyway, this is a great show. HOAs, it's the bane of the blind ham's existence because there's so many. That's why so many of us have got into DMR and All-Star and Fusion and stuff like that, because you just didn't have a way to put an antenna up. Nope. So now we have ways to put up antennas, or in this case, put down antennas.
That's right. And that's my burden, guys. I have to tell you, I'll close with this. There was a ham in a nursing home. He couldn't get on the radio. He was a ham for 45 years here in town, and he couldn't get on. And they said they saw him crying every day. He was like, "What's wrong? I can't get on my radio." It meant everything to him. It meant something. And I've been there. I've been in that kind of depression, and when the Lord got me out of it, thanks to Paul and others, I said, I'm going to pay back that way. And if there's people that can't get on the air because of an antenna problem, I'm going to find a way to get them on the air. I don't care what we have to do. We're going to get them on the air. And he died of a broken heart. He was sick health-wise, but he also had a broken heart. He was a ham that couldn't get on the radio, and it killed him inside. It just killed him.
And that is awful. I was off for 25 years because I couldn't figure out a way from 1997. I mean, I tried different things and it did not work. I had electrical issues at the old house, and I just, when I got here, to the new QTH and, switch careers and everything, and said, you know what? I'm getting back on. I had no equipment, kind of like you, Trippy. I had nothing left.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I brought my KX3 with me. It wasn't working at the old house. And I brought it here one day and said, it's gonna, we're gonna make this work. And, that was my first time with it on the air was, with the winter field day last year with the AX1. And it sort of worked, but not really. And, that started me looking at other options. And I ended up
for you, buddy.
I'm glad you're on with us.
I'm so happy you're back, Rick.
When I started the Blind Hams Net on Saturday mornings, one morning a gentleman, I wish I'd have wrote his call. So I've got it in the log. He was calling from a nursing home in North Carolina.
Oh man.
And I talked to him for a while and he says, I'm 103 years old laying here in this nursing home. And I've got this HT and this hotspot and I can get back on the radio again. So there was a will, there was a way, and now we've got a few more ways. So
I just finished building a duplex hotspot myself, got it together. And
good for you, my friend.
Got it.
Well, that's what it's about, guys. There was a guy, in 1978, and this is another reason why I do what I do, but in 1978, I got my novice in 77, and I was off, I didn't have a radio, and I had to go to people's houses and come home. I had withdrawals, okay? I came home to the guy's house, I can't do nothing now, And in February of 78, February 4th, 1978, it was a Saturday, we had a snowstorm up in the northern part of Michigan where I lived at that time. And Lloyd WB8ENT called me and said, Trippy. He said, what are you doing right now? I says, I'm sitting here. I got nothing to do. I got nothing going on. He said, I'd like to come over if I can. I said, absolutely. Come on over. It's snowing out there. Oh yeah, I know it's snowing. So him and two other hams came over to my house in a snowstorm. We're talking heavy snows. And they came over to my house and I almost fell over when he said, Trippy, we're going to get you on the air today. I said, today? It's snowing out. Oh, I know, but don't worry about it. We want you on the air. We're going to fellas, they put up a dipole, halfway 15-meter dipole for me. He let me borrow his you guys will love the HW8 Heathkit 3-watt radio. And I made a contact. I was on cloud 55. I mean, I was way up there. But just, he did that for me. He said, we know you want to get on the air. We know if we get you on, you're going to use it. And we want to get you on the air. And it was one of the greatest days of my life. If it wasn't the greatest day of my life. So that's why I do what I do.
That's what this hobby is all about. You just said it right there. Guys helping guys.
It's I got a friend of mine back in PA that did most of the software configuration because I just wasn't feeling like doing it on the hotspot. And I did the build on it, the hardware wise, and got him in, and he sat there and played with it because he was feeling more patient than I was over the past probably month. And we've got it running DMR, we got it running YSF, and I just set up a Yaesu FT70D, and I've got it. I can reliably connect to FT70 or YSF groups without a question with no vision.
For you.
Yeah, I talked to you several times on your FT70. We'll go ahead and say 7-3, guys, and I appreciate everybody for joining us. And until next time on the CQ Blind Hams podcast, good night, everyone.